Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February 2023 You Lead webinar. We have a very special webinar with us today as far as we're going to be talking about events. I have two of my event friends here from Lifeway, Mickey and Darilynn, so I'm excited to have them here. We've got the chat section enabled, and so I want to make sure that you know we've got a lot of new people, I think, on this particular webinar that have never been with us. So open up that chat section, tell us your name, where you're from. We'd love to be able to just say hey to you and know that you're joining us from all over. I'm actually joining you from Fort Worth, Texas today. I'm on the campus at Southwestern Seminary. They have some great women's programs here. So if you're interested in seminary, Southwestern, and if you're especially in the Texas area or in the Midwest, a good place for you to think about coming. Catherine and I were actually earlier this week, we were in Southern California getting ready for our West Coast Women's Leadership Forum that's happening in July. And so if you've been to the Women's Forum in Nashville, we still do the one in Nashville, and we'll have another one this year, but we also have one coming up in July 13th and 14th in Highland, California. And it is a beautiful area, and we're super excited to bring that event back because we are talking about events today. I've got a few announcements that I want to just go through really quickly, just because we are talking about events. I want to make sure that you are aware of the things that Lifeway offers. And we are going to talk a lot today about how you partner with a Lifeway event, but we also want to answer your questions about events in general too. So if we start to stray a little bit, we'll try to recorrect and pivot back to doing just events as well, because we know a lot of you are planning your own events, but we would love to see you at a Lifeway Women event. And there's a few of them. So we have Going Beyond Live events with Priscilla Shire. We have Lifeway Women live events, and those are being around, and those are multi-author, so you get to hear lots of different voices at that. And then we also have several events with Jackie Hill Perry that it's called Glory. So you can check out that. You can check out our leadership events like You Lead, our West Coast Forum, and then also we do small conferences for new leaders called Essentials. So that's something else to consider. We also give away some free resources when you join us on the webinar, so I wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. First of all, we need you to sign up for our Ministry to Women newsletter. And every month, everyone who is on that newsletter list, you're automatically entered to win the gift of that month. And so you can go to lifeway.com/ministry news and you can sign up for that, and you get a monthly newsletter with leadership information. It's a great resource for women's leaders. And then also this month, if you are on that list, we are going to be giving away a Lifeway Women simulcast. And this is for one small group host pass and 5 individual passes. So because we have a Lifeway Women Live simulcast coming up, it'll be coming, we're actually doing the live event in Des Moines, but it is also the simulcast event, so women can join us from all over the world, and they will be joining us from all over the world as well. So anyway, those are some of the things that I just wanted to mention as we get started. But I really want you to get to know my friends, Mickey and Darilynn. So welcome to the webinar, you guys. And let's see, Darilynn, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Lifeway. And then I would love for you to share maybe how an event has impacted your life.
Sure. My name is Darilynn Keith, and I have been at Lifeway for, I just celebrated my 15th year anniversary, and I'm on the events team. I'm our lead digital event coordinator, so coordinate simulcasts, and then I'm also our brand owner for our Glory events with Jackie Hill Perry. So we kind of do all the things when you're on the event team. We kind of wear a lot of hats, but those are my two main things that I'm responsible for. And honestly, events have always been a part of my life. I would consider camp an event. And I went to camp growing up as a student, and I actually gave my life to the Lord when I was in 10th grade at a camp. And so I love so much gathering people together to experience God, and because I know the impact that it can have on people. And I mean, I gave my life to the Lord in that environment. And so yeah, I love doing that for a living.
That's awesome. Mickey, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Mickey Pitts, and I am also a coordinator at Lifeway. I have the privilege of getting to work on simulcast events and live events, and then also helping to develop new events. So that's really fun. So we are actually developing new events for 2024. And so as I'm thinking about you guys, I know so many of you are creating new things all the time. And so that's something else that we do, is always looking for just the needs that women have, and try to create event experiences that we know will impact their lives. So I am married. I've got a 12-year-old stepson named Landon, a 2-year-old little boy named Rhett, and my husband and I and our kids live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So it's just a privilege to get to be with you today, and so fun to see where all you guys are joining us from.
Yeah.
As far as, an event that changed my life, I can actually think of something really special that happened to me when I was in high school. Our youth minister's wife actually asked me to plan a girls' ministry retreat for the girls in our youth group. And so I did that, and I got to be involved in everything, picking the speakers and the theme, and even helping design the t-shirts and just everything about the experience at the retreat. And never could have known that that experience was something I just loved it. And I had no real intention of becoming an event coordinator in this way, but God just so sweetly, as he does, weaved even that experience, as a teenager into my life. And here I am, over a decade later, still doing that work. So anyway, that was very influential in my life, both from a spiritual perspective, but then also even just as a career path later on. Never would have known.
I love how God just uses all of our experiences, and he includes that in what we do and our passions and our love, and how he just kind of uses all of that. And so I can definitely attest to how events have changed my life as well. We want to hear from you. We have not done this in the last few months, but we have decided to launch a poll today. So I've got two different polls. And so if you're on a phone, I think it's a little bit, and if you're driving, please don't try to do this. But if you are on maybe a laptop, you'll see the poll come up. You can vote real quickly. I'll give us time to do that. I'm going to try to launch one of the polls here. And the first one is just a kind of a general one on, like, we would love to know, like, how many events do you have planned for this year? Is it 1? Is it 2 to 5? More than 5? Or you're not planning an event this year? So we would kind of want to hear that as well. I'm watching the poll is just coming through, and a lot of you are voting really quickly. This is good to see. I'll give it just a few more seconds. Awesome. I'm gonna 3, 2, 1. I'm ending it. All right. So I'm gonna share the results, and it looks like 48% of you are planning 2 to 5 events. About 25% of you are planning more than 5 events this year. So that is a lot of events. And so we'll talk a little bit about maybe how we can come along beside you, how we can make some things easier that way too. Let me it says I can share the results. So I did that. So I'm going to go to the second poll, and this is about outside events. And I'd love to know when you go to an outside event, what are some of the things that you look for when you're bringing women to an outside event. So I'm going to launch this, and some of the options I put in here are: do you look at the speakers? Do you look at the location? Do you look at the cost? And I know that all of those factors might make a difference, but is there one that you go, hey, I really want to go hear this speaker, or it's in my city, or it's close to my city, so that makes a difference? Or is it, hey, this is affordable and I can do that? Or maybe, and some of you are saying, I've not brought women to an outside event. That's not something that we've planned for our own women. So this is really interesting to see. I love seeing how, like, this helps us even at Lifeway to know a little bit about how you just make decisions. I think those things really do really impact that. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll, and I'll share the results. Look at this, you guys. This is really interesting. So 58% of you say that you come to an outside event based on maybe who's speaking, but then 50% of you say location is important, but 35% are saying cost. So those are all like, I would say those first two, speakers and location, really do make a difference in maybe your decision making. And that's good for us to hear too, when we start thinking about even, I mean, you guys, events take a long time to plan. So if you're thinking, hey, I think I'm going to do an event in April, you're probably behind a little bit. So, but we've got some answers for you. We've got some solutions for you to help you do that if you want to think about that. But also, we're already looking at 2024. So be praying for us as we consider what kind of places that we're going to be bringing events to you as well. So anyway, I do think, Darilynn, let's start with just a very basic question. And I also want to just remind you, there's a Q&A button at the bottom. So if you have a question, just go to the Q&A button. We can't usually use the raising of the hand as well in a webinar, but we would love to have those questions in the Q&A, and Michelle will help us with that. And Michelle and Catherine are watching the chat for us as well too. So Darilynn, let's start there. Let's start with, why do we do an event, whether it's Lifeway or your own church?
Yeah. Well, I'm in a unique position right now because I'm also coordinating my own church's women's retreat as a volunteer. And so I'm doing what you guys are doing at your local churches as well. So I have all of that in my head because mine's coming up in just a couple of weeks on March 3rd and 4th. And so the reason why we do events is obviously to gather together in person so that we can connect with the Lord. Obviously, first and foremost, we want to bring glory to the Lord, and we want to study his word together corporately, to know him better, to study his character, to fall more in love with him. That is always the number one top priority for us as we plan events here at Lifeway and at your churches. I know and hope that's the same thing for you too, but also so that we can gather together with other women and get to know each other better, connect with women, because God's created us to not be silos. He's created us for relationship, and what better way than to connect with other women who are like-minded, who are, or maybe there's women that come to your event that don't know the Lord, that get to hear the gospel for the first time. So we're always gathering together to connect with God and connect with others. That's what I always say. And when we do events, we never want to be in and out. We support, as Lifeway, we support the local church. We believe in the local church. And so I always tell my local street teams when we go out on our site visits, like, we want to set up these women to get connected to the local church after we leave. We never want to come and just do an event for an event's sake. We want women to be discipled afterwards. We want them to get connected with other believers, and so they can grow in their faith and their walk with the Lord. And so yeah, we're always hoping to help women grow in their faith.
Yeah. Darilynn, I'm going to stick with you for just a second, because I want us to, because you have, and Mickey, you have too. You both have been such an instrumental part of our digital events at Lifeway. And we love it when women are in the room. We think that there's so much value, and we're seeing women coming back because, COVID really did make a difference over the last couple of years, but we're seeing women coming back and feeling safe, and like we're regathering. But there's just a lot of times that you can't come to a live event. We're not close, or maybe it just isn't possible, or maybe you're looking for something more affordable. So Darilynn, we're going to talk a little bit about simulcast events. So let's think for a minute, why are these important for women, and how do they help our churches to get access to some really great content?
Yeah. We always like to say that, like, our simulcasts are events made easy, and hosting is easy. And we really pride ourselves in setting up our hosts for success. But a lot of times, and we'll talk about this maybe a little later too, that like events can be really costly. I'm sure you guys know, and I know too, just working with my budget at my church, it's not a lot of money, right? And so, we're all, I mean, even this morning I was talking to the graphic designer at my church to say, hey, can we make these journals, and like, how can we make them most like cheap, like how we want to do it cheap. And so, we want to make sure that that we provide a way for you to do that. And the best way we have found is through these simulcasts, because we offer, trustworthy biblical teaching from these awesome teachers who love the Lord, and who, have provided such great resources in books and Bible studies. It costs a lot of money to bring people in to speak, and you've got green room costs and all those extra costs that come with bringing a speaker to an event. With the simulcast, it's kind of like a plug and play. Like, you just have to have internet connection. We say you got to have internet connection, you got to have a device to connect to the internet, so a computer, and you got to have a space for your women to watch the event. And so, yeah, so we provide that easy way for women, and or for churches, it's $600, and it's all inclusive. And so you get all kinds of tools, for promotion and for planning. And we have a whole team of simulcast specialists that walk alongside all of our hosts. It's very easy. And we've got a host guide that has all the tips and tricks in it to help you have a successful event. And so, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Oh yeah, and I do think budgets are a huge part. And I do, when I meet with women's ministry like groups or leadership groups, a lot of times that is where things get kind of stuck, because budgets do get, you just think, okay, this is how much we have and this is what we can do, and cost, and how much do we charge, and trying to pay for it and not, be good stewards of what the Lord has given you as well. So I do think our simulcast events help really kind of give you an affordable way to bring an event, to bring an author, to bring somebody to your church, and you can make that event special. Mickey, I want to ask you for a second, because I do think when you're planning an event, it's not just one person. You've got to have a team. So when you think about, even if you're doing a simulcast event, like what should a good event team look like, and how can you make that helpful so that it's not just you?
Yeah, Kelly, I think that's a great question. And I'm going to just take a guess that of all of the participants on this call, that many of us probably have trouble delegating. There's just something about leadership that can just be really challenging. We just have a feeling, maybe we've had past experiences before where we delegated something or had a team, but someone didn't carry their weight. Even all the way back to student projects in school, you were assigned to a group and maybe someone didn't do it. And so we kind of somewhere learned in our minds that if we want to get something done, we might as well just do it ourselves. I think that can sometimes be the mentality of leaders. But as I know, and we're not meant to do it all by ourselves. And not only that, we miss out on the blessing of providing opportunity for other women, not just younger women, but absolutely that is part of it, but other women to grow in their leadership and knowledge by coming alongside of you on a team. But then also the community that forms around building an event. And so whether you are putting on your own conference and having a local speaker come and do your event, which I'm imagining that some of you guys are doing a combination of things. Maybe you're doing a retreat and you're paying for a speaker to come out of town. Maybe you have an annual brunch or Christmas event or something that you do, and you've got a really stellar speaker within your congregation. And then maybe you're interested in a simulcast kind of event where you can have a speaker that may have a little bit more national recognition in terms of their Bible teaching. You might have done some of their studies, but you can actually have them teach in your church on your turf, so to speak. And so there's so many different ways to do that, but you aren't meant to do any of that by yourself. And so one of the things I love about simulcast events is that we have, Darilynn alluded to this, but we have a host guide, and this guide has suggestions for literally every single person that you should have on your team, all the volunteers that you should have at an event. And so whether it's a simulcast or not, it's actually a really good template for thinking through that. So, of course, you want to have someone that you're delegating and like registration to, who is going to be helping to plan, are you selling tickets? How are you selling them? Even if you're not, how are you collecting names so that you can anticipate how many women are going to come to your event? Because that is one of the most important things. And one of the biggest variables, right? In terms of if you're going to have food or things like that. So having someone, a key person in charge of registration, someone who's kind of helping lead the promotion efforts. And then maybe that woman even building a team around her to help her spread out the word. I even saw in the comments, and which I love, and we see this a lot with our simulcast events, especially, but where churches will open the doors for this event, but they bring so many women in from the community. And so we want to think not just within the walls of our own church and discipleship opportunities of growth for women in our congregation, but also opportunities where we can open it, invite women from other churches or women at large who aren't part of a church. And so we want to have a team around promotion who can think like that. And there's some people who are really good at that. Where are those gifts? And so we try to help through our simulcast events to help people to think through all those different opportunities. We also have recommend to have a woman over prayer, someone who is helping to lead prayer efforts around your event, whether that's setting up, a webinar or a Zoom call where women are praying together on a regular basis for your event, whether they have a text thread going. It's one of the things that we love that a lot of women have done over the years is have set an alarm on your phone for a certain time every day, where every time that alarm goes off, the women that are part of your team are setting aside that time to pray for your event and for the impact that it's going to have on the women in your church and your community. So those are just a few of those ideas of people on your team. And we could get much more specific in that. I don't know if I could talk all day about the people on your team, but those are some of those key roles. And I think the biggest thing is realizing you cannot do it on your own. In fact, I actually had a conversation, Darilynn was with me, but I had a conversation with a woman recently who was part of her church, and they had recently hosted a simulcast event, and she said that it was wonderful and that the women just absolutely loved it. And she said, she basically said she thought her women's ministry leader just about killed her. Like she just about died planning the whole thing because it was so much. And she struggled, to delegate and allow other women to walk alongside of her. So that's something that we really love to do and would love to help you guys as you are planning events, whether it's a simulcast or another event at your church, to think through all those different roles and how you can really bring women aside, both to help you and make the event a success, but then also to help you provide opportunities for women to grow in community, get more plugged in, and to be considering that outreach into the broader community. So anyway, those are just some ideas there, but you can hit us up later if you want a more of a step-by-step of all of those different roles.
Well, and also we're going to talk a little bit about some of those roles here in a second.
Perfect.
As well. But I do think when you have a team, the other reason you want to build that team, and I would say include a lot of people, is they have different influence in the women that they know. So when you have more women in leadership and they own it, then they will bring people to the event. So I hear women all the time say, I can't get women to come to an event. Well, make sure that you're including women in the leadership of that. And I think that that will help with that. Darilynn, I want to, because we have talked a little bit about our simulcast. So some people I think would maybe say, well, I really want to make this my own. Like maybe I really want to do this at my church and I want to make it a little bit more customized, for my my ladies, or I want to do my own kind of thing. So you've seen this happen a lot over the years, and how women can take an event that's already kind of pre-packaged, but they make it their own. So how can women do that?
Yeah, that is one of the most beautiful things about our simulcast events. Is that it is so customizable. I mean, so we give all of our church hosts 60 days access to the simulcast, which means you have a lot of flexibility there. You can break the event up. You don't have to do a full day event. A lot of times people are like, oh, that's a really long time to sit there and watch a screen. And so you don't have to do that. A lot of people like that too. They like to sit there and be there live during the live event, with the rest of the world. But you don't have to. You can cut it up and, show a session a week and make it a weekly Bible study during that 60-day period. You can, host 2 or 3 times and do like what we call like a second chance simulcast for the people that didn't get to make it that first time. You can, you can use it for an in-person event, and you can also use it for a digital event. You don't have to have everybody in the same room to host the simulcast. You can have as many people as you want in the room, and then we just charge $5 a person for anyone that's going to be watching on the other side of a screen. So you can send those out to the people that are serving at your in-person event. You can send it to the people that are had to leave early or come late or whatever the case may be. If they've missed any of it, you can send them just that $5 digital access, and they can watch it from wherever they are. So it's really customizable in that aspect. I know, for a normal event that you would do at your church that isn't a simulcast, if you miss it, you miss it. There's no going back and getting to rewatch, or well, maybe if you're recording it, but you don't get to experience it together again. And so with the simulcast, it's a little bit more flexible that way.
I love the idea that you mentioned of just like even spreading it out over a few
Yeah.
weeks if you wanted to do that, especially a Lifeway Women Live where you have got these incredible authors. And sometimes, even if you're at the live event, it's good, like if you can get a digital access, like buy the digital pass as well, so that you can go back, because I will take notes, but sometimes I'm thinking, I really need to go back and hear what Jennifer Rothschild said in that particular session, or Jen Wilkin, or whoever the author might be, or if it's Priscilla. So that's something that I think is super beautiful about being able to use this in different ways. I love that. But okay, Mickey, I think some women who are probably on this webinar are thinking, technology, no, I don't want to deal with it. I don't know how to do this. This seems like a lot. And I think we need to just tell people, how do we make things easy if they do want to do a simulcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I understand that, it can be really scary, especially maybe this is just a theme for me today of control. I don't know what this tells you guys about me or not, but just the idea of, of having something, I'd feel a little bit more in control if I can, get the speaker and push him out on the stage at the right time and make sure everything's going, so excuse me, it can feel a little unnerving to think, okay, well, I'm just going to rely on this technology to do it. But the beauty of that is that we're doing all of that for you. So you're not having to worry about that side of kind of herding cats and trying to make sure everybody's on stage. And because that's another aspect of putting on an event, is caring and having someone delegated to care for that speaker, for the worship team, making sure that they're all being taken care of. There's just so many that's another role that you might want on your team, is somebody to just really take care and make sure that they have all of their needs met at their event. But I think as far as the technology goes, we have been doing this a long time, and technology has come a very long way, which is the good news. We have been doing this since before we had satellite trucks. And so we've honestly, Lifeway has sort of evolved. It's something I think we as a team are proud of and thankful that God's given us the ability to do, is to kind of try to keep up with the times and to see what that technology is doing and changing. And now that we really, because of this, living through the COVID age, we are accustomed to this kind of technology even more, and it has made even more advancements as far as that goes. So we work very, very diligently to make sure that we prohibit any issues on our end. So that is part of that, is just having, definitely trust in us. But we do provide multiple opportunities for churches who host a simulcast to test, to make sure that everything is working properly at their event. Even the night before, churches log on. They know exactly what to expect. They have a minute by minute kind of schedule. We communicate with them in the chat room. We have ongoing customer support leading up to an event, the day of the event, after the event. We even have volunteers that we call simulcast specialists who are available to help answer those things. They get on the phone with women, they walk through things. Our customer support teams talk to technical leaders and facility leaders at churches all the time to make sure that they're prepared. So our job is to make sure that event for you guys goes off without a hitch. And so that's really our focus on that. So we do everything that we can on our end, and then try to provide all of the resources to help you in case of any kind of difference. But you'll have all of that information on the front end. So as long as you follow along and jump in on those test times, I don't think you'll have a problem at all.
Yeah, and sometimes there are things that happen. We will not say that it's always been perfect, but we've
Right.
worked really, really hard to make this as easy as we can. And I love it, Mickey, when I see the pictures of our customer engagement team, like
Oh, yeah.
they are on the phones ready to help people when they're having, if they have any issues at all. And that they give up their, some time just to be there to be available to people. And I love that so much. Darilyn, before we kind of talk about a few other little things about events, I did want you to have the opportunity to tell them because Lifeway Women Live, that simulcast is coming really quickly. So would you tell us the date of that and a little bit about that one, and then about the Going Beyond simulcast, maybe about that one too?
Yeah. I was going to add to what Mickey said, though, for the technology side. We recommend a minimum continuous download speed of 10 megabytes per second. And so you can easily test your internet connection at like fast.com or speedtest.net. And really, honestly, I always tell people the easiest way to know if you have the like strength, the internet strength to stream something is if you can like stream Netflix or YouTube. If you can do that, then you are probably going to be okay for the simulcast too. If you're at your church location that you're going to be hosting and you can do those things, then you're probably fine. So a lot of people think that you have to, like in the old days, have the big satellite or all these like requirements, and that's just not the case anymore. You just got to have the internet and a strong enough signal for that purpose. But yes, so Lifeway Women simulcast is our first one coming up. It's April 29th, which if you can do the math, I said that you get 60-day access to that event. So you have until June 29th to host that event. So if you can't make it on that date, then you have all those days to do it in between. And that event is different because we have multiple speakers. So we've got several really amazing teachers. We've got Kristen McClelland. We've got, help me, Jada Edwards, Elizabeth Woodson, Jennifer
Wilkin,
Rothschild. Who else, Mickey?
Jen Wilkin.
And Jen Wilkin. And Hope Darce is going to be leading worship, which she's incredible. And so we've got panel discussions. And so that event is going to be really cool because you get to know a lot of different teachers. Sometimes they're new to you. And you get, all of that for the same price, for just the same, price of $600. Not, you don't have to pay more for each speaker, anything like that. And then it's also the theme. We know that theme for that event because every Lifeway Women event that we do is it has a theme around pursuing Christ together. Our whole overall arching theme is pursuing Christ together. And for this particular event, it's pursuing Christ together in truth. And so we're going to be talking about truth throughout the entire event. Each speaker is going to speak on God's truth, and so that's going to be really cool. And then the Going Beyond simulcast is this fall, or early fall. It's going to be August 26th with Priscilla Shire, and worship is going to be done with Anthony Evans, her brother. And that event is unique because she does this really cool thing with prayer, where she has these prayer experiences. And if you've ever been to a Going Beyond live event or ever done the simulcast, you know what an impactful time that is because the women pray through different categories. And then she does this really cool thing where she has women who have been victorious in those struggles to stand, and then she has the women who are in the midst of the struggle to come around, and the women that have come out on the other side of those struggles come and pray for the women who are amidst those struggles. And it's just really cool. It's just such a powerful moment because you get to see God's faithfulness exhibited through your sisters in Christ, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So that event is coming up in August, and that's also available for 60 days for churches. And so, or actually, we've extended it a little bit, so it's all the way through the month of October. You get for the Going Beyond simulcast, and then yes, and then I'm sorry, I forgot to mention for small group hosts, you get 30-day access. So if you're hosting just a small group of women, then you get 30 days still to access the event and split it up if you want and use it however you want. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, awesome. Okay, so that's good to know. And they can go to lifeway.com/events and they can find it. You just, even at the top, there's a place for you to look at up events. So you can find all the information there as well. Mickey, I was going to ask you, because sometimes people are like, well, what do I do like after the event? If I am going to do a simulcast, it can be a really good learning kind of curve. Like you can learn by starting with this, and then you can launch into doing your own event. So talk about how doing an event like this can build momentum for the women in your church.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one of the things that I have really loved about this aspect of the ministry that we provide is that they come together. They actually, if you have not built a team, as we were talking about earlier, you start to build a team around you. You offer this event, women realize how fun it is to be together. They get excited because they have this event that they're excited about and proud of too, to invite their friends and their neighbors and people who maybe don't have a church home or haven't made a decision for Christ. And they see those women sometimes come to know the Lord as a result, and they get fired up, and then they're ready to do more. And that is what is so fun to see God do. And so using, if you've not done many events before, even if you have, but you thought, it didn't really go as well as we were hoping for, or we've done something on a smaller scale, but now we want to open up to the community. This is a really great learning experience and way to kind of start, because we do provide. I know I saw some comments saying, hey, just some essentials, like, help if we could have just a list of like, how do we do this, and how do we promote, and how far in advance do we do this, and what do we do for food, and what do we do for those things. That's all stuff that we actually provide to all of our simulcast hosts, and they have access to those simulcast specialists I was talking about, who they've all planned many events and done many things in their churches, so they give lots of advice to that. So it's a really great way to kind of dip your toe in, if you have not done that before. And then you have set up a successful event. Women have seen how fun that is to be together. They've seen lives change. They've seen the impact, and then they're ready to do more. And you've already built a team who's worked together and been praying together, and their hearts are knitted together. And so then at that point, you're ready to launch into having other events at your church as well. And you've already learned about promotion and what worked, and you've already learned about how to utilize that technology and what it's like to actually work even within within your church and your congregation, to get the word out and to use the facilities. It's just a really great way to kind of get your feet wet, step in, and then launch into doing other things. I think that I can actually think of one woman in particular that probably lots of women on this call know, but she has been a longtime volunteer and friend of Lifeway. And when I met her over 10 years ago, she had been doing simulcast events at her church in Canada. And she has continued to do that over the years. But it was that learning that then launched her into doing bigger and more events, and opening up their doors to even more in their community, bringing in a teen challenge into their church, and women involved in that. And so they just thought bigger and bigger. And we've seen them also church unity among churches in a community, where that has just been something that we've seen as well. And so I just say all that to say it's that great starting point, and you'll be so ready to then launch in and to be doing even more, maybe inviting a bigger speaker to come to your location, or maybe a woman from your congregation or from a local church. But then you've got those relationships and contacts too, which is really neat. If you've built those relationships even within your city or within a few hours, suddenly you've got even more friends and talented women who are great teachers of God's word, who could maybe even be a speaker at your event. So I hope that answers what you're thinking, but I think, it's just a great way to get started.
Yeah, and I think that you answered our question about just this could be an outreach event for you, or it could be a way that you gather a few churches in your community to do something together, and build those relationships with other churches. And then also, I love that we have options. So if you just say, hey, I just really want to have some people over at my home, and we're just going to spend the day together, and we just want to do this, just sit around the couch and in our, in our PJs or whatever, we can do that, and we can just hang out. And so we can have a small group, or we can do it at our church, have a bigger event. So there's a lot of options there. Okay, I'm going to turn this to the questions, because I'm watching the Q&A and the number of that is growing. So I want to give us time to answer all of our viewers' questions. So Michelle, I'm going to ask you to hop on, and if you'll start doing the questions, and Mickey and Darilynn, you guys just kind of jump in with Whoever wants to answer.
Okay, great. First thing I'm going to say is if you haven't go to the Lifeway Women blog, search hosting an event, and there's all kinds of blog posts there on hosting events, whether that's simulcast with Lifeway, doing your own thing. I just put up, I put it up earlier, but I put it up again, a great post that's on the blog that actually I think was in, it's a year or two old. I'm not really sure. We've refreshed it since maybe 2021, but it is on, it's a guide to planning an event. No matter what kind of event you're doing, retreat or whatever, it would be very helpful because it has a timeline, what you need to do a year out, what you need to do, 6 months in advance, all those kind of things. So I really want to encourage you to go on the blog and look at all kinds of things that are on there that would be really helpful. And then with our questions, we've got some great questions. And I really, Sylvia had one that I wanted to make sure we addressed is how far in advance should I publicize an event? She said, I usually do it a few months in advance and put out the RSV a couple of weeks where it ends, maybe a couple of weeks prior. I'm not really sure if that's what she means, but our members are not great at RSVPing. So what would you guys say to that? How far in advance do you publicize the event? Does it depend on the event?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that just because like I said, I'm helping coordinate my church's thing. And for us, it depended a lot on the timing because we didn't want to announce it before Christmas, obviously, because we thought it would get lost in the shuffle and people would not have that as a top of mind thing with it being in March. But I expressed to my staff, like, we really need to get this out so that people can make sure they put it on their calendars at least. So the first of the year, like, we started promoting it. So we did about 3 months out in advance of the event. And I think, we've almost hit our max of how many people we need. And so yeah, I mean, I think that if you're doing it later in the year, I think that, you can probably put it out there a little even sooner before that, because, you're probably going to be planning already, probably 6 months or even longer than that. So the sooner you can get that date out to people to put it on their calendars, I think the better.
Good. That's great. I'm going to answer this question really quick. All of our webinars are on the Lifeway Women YouTube channel. So all of this information we're sharing today, you can go to the Lifeway Women YouTube channel later and listen to this again. Or share with other people at your church that you want to share that. Okay, this is another great question. If I want to do the simulcast at my home, either with a small group or by myself, how do I do that?
Yeah, I can answer that too. So it's $40 for a small group host pass, and that gives you access to all of our planning resources. We have a host guide specifically for small group hosts. And then it's $30 per person that's in your small group host, and that gives them access to watch from anywhere. And they also get the 30-day access as the same as the small group host. So so they can watch it again if they want to when they go home, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, obviously it's the same thing, like I said about the internet. You need to have a strong enough internet. We recommend minimum continuous download speed of 10 megabytes per second. And, I would personally, if I was doing it at my home, which I've done before, I just use my smart TV to cast it to my TV. And whether you have an Apple TV or a Roku, we have a Lifeway On Demand app that you can access the event on really beautifully and easy. And so you would just log on there. And if you were doing it live with us, you would log on at that time. Or if you're doing it on demand later on, you would just click and play, very easy there. So yeah, and then I mean we have a lot of tips for small group hosts. We always say, maybe have some breakfast ready for your ladies when they arrive. And you can do little goodie bags with a journal and a pen and make it really special for your location, and you don't have to go. That's the beauty of the simulcast. You can go as little or as big as you want, and everything will be fine either way. As I always say, as long as women are connecting with the Lord and connecting with each other, you are good. So, but if you want to make it, a little bit more special, you have room to do so.
Good. Great. Let me ask this just to clarify this, because this question has come in, I think, by a couple of people. Is the host guide available to anyone or those participating in the simulcast?
The host guide is for people that have registered, for the simulcast.
Okay. Okay, great. So the only way to get that host guide is if you are registered for a simulcast, and then you have it and you get to go through all the training and all the kind of things that are available for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and that's where that one link that I sent that's on the blog is something, if you're planning your own event, that I want to really encourage you to look at. Okay, this is a great question. How do you get younger women to attend events?
I'd love to take a stab at this one. But I think one, just know you're not alone. This is one of the questions that we ask even at Lifeway, is how do we get younger women to want to attend and participate in our events too. I also love your heart, because you're even asking that question, that you're concerned about, you're concerned about the younger women in your church and community. So that I'm encouraged by that's a question that you're asking. I think one of the best ways, two things, best ways to encourage young women to attend is, the first one is to involve younger women on your planning team. And you might say, well, I don't know younger women to invite to my planning team. I think you have to kind of search them out. You may not, even if you don't know them, and they may be, depending on their season of life, whether in college or have young children, or single and busy and travel with their jobs, or whatever the case may be, they are busy for sure. But sometimes when we talk to younger women, the number one thing they say is that they want a older woman in their life to pour into them. But it's intimidating for them to ask that woman to do that. So I would encourage you, the power of invitation, you just won't even believe. And so if you know of a young woman in your church, or you get to know, or maybe you ask around, I would encourage you to invite her, go get coffee, go to lunch, ask her about her gifts and her talents, ask her if she'd like to be involved, cast your vision, and see if it's something that she would like to do. There's a really good chance that she'll find a way, because she is likely looking for community, looking for an older woman to be around, that will open up her heart and life to her. And so I would encourage you to do that. She will know how to reach other women her age, and by also by connection, when she's coming and she's involved in the event, her friends and those that she knows are going to want to come and be involved in that as well. So I think she will help speak wisdom as you're promoting, and help you to think about different ways of getting the word out, but also maybe even the design of the event. Maybe there's who the speaker is, or the kind of worship, or what time of day it is. I know that all of those things can influence the attendance of having younger women attend too. So she'll have a voice to that, to be able to do it. So that would be one of the first things. And then the other thing is, I think, setting that tone of, we want all of the women in our church to come to this event, being intentional. If you have Sunday school classes at your church, maybe you go to a class that has primarily younger women, and you talk about the event, and ask them to be involved in the planning, or let them know how badly you want them to attend. Maybe you put notes in the nursery, the bags of all of the children in the nursery, encouraging them to attend, or flyers, something, being intentional about figuring out where they are in your church, where they are in your community, and then finding other young women who can speak to their kind of season of life and generation, to help you to connect and bring them along. But I really think, just thinking about the power of invitation, and the hurdle that you could potentially feel of, well, I'm kind of old, or I'm kind of out of touch, or I don't have anything to offer her, or she's probably too busy, she's got all those kids, she may be looking for a reason to get out of the house and do something different and be connected to other women. Maybe she's looking for that invitation to be involved, and for someone to see something in her that, you know, to see, oh, wow, I think you have this a gift and I would love for you to be part of my team and helping to build this. So I think some of that really does start with that team that you build around you to get the word out. And then on top of that, just looking to figure out where those women are, and making sure that they know that they are wanted and invited. So those would be, I think, my biggest things. And Darilynn, I'd love to know if you have other thoughts on that too.
Well, I just I had heard this thing about specifically about Gen Z, and that, you know, it's there's no more FOMO with Gen Z. They don't care about the fear of missing out. They are more concerned about better options. So they call it FOBO. And so it's fear of better options. So they're not going to commit until they get to the last minute and they know, oh, I don't have anything else going on that night. So sure, I'll go, you know, and then they'll show up. But you know, I think I love your idea, Mickey, of involving them in the planning process, because then they have buy-in. And if they have buy-in, they're going to invite their friends who are then going to want to come because they know that, you know, it's going to be cool because my friend's helping plan it, and, you know, that kind of a thing. And so, yeah, it's that hard thing for event coordinators when we're, you know, seeing our registration numbers not growing, and then last minute you're like, oh, look, now they're showing up, like, you know. And so but yeah, I think that if you can get them involved in the planning side, that might help a lot.
That makes me want to say one more thing, Kelly, too.
Yeah,
Sorry if
please.
I'm saying too much here, but I think I love that, Darilynn. And I think I've heard you say that recently too, but I think that, you know, we often think, well, they're going to find something better, but why do you clear something on your schedule? Why do you make it a point to go to something when there are people that you love that are going to be there, when you know that you're going to be missed when you're not there? Those are some of the biggest reasons why you carve something out on your schedule, right? Because of that. And so if you have young women that you've brought alongside of you and they know that you love them, you've built relationship with them, you've been pouring into their life, they've been part of building it, dreaming it, helping you to pull it together, there's a really good chance that those women are not going to find anything better to be involved in. And then, as Darilynn said, as they're doing that, they've got other friends and they're saying, hey, you can't miss this. Like, I've been planning this. I've been involved in this. Like, you got to be there. And so I really think that is the number, when it comes down to it, we're women, and we're just so relational. And so women want to be where their relationships are. And so they could get a better offer. And, you know, if they get asked on a date or something, you may just lose them and they may not be coming. But if they, you know, I just really feel like that relationship side, you know, is the key, that if they feel like they're loved and that their presence will be missed, and that, you know, that's the thing to be at because so many wonderful people are there, I think that they may have a better chance of picking to come to your event versus you know, something else that comes along. So I just want to mention that as well.
Yeah.
So good. Okay. There was another comment or in the Q&A, whatever, where Cynthia said the cost really matters. Often the women are not able to afford, I guess, whatever they're hosting at their church. But can you give some, maybe some suggestions of events that you could there's events that you can do for free, or there's ways to host different things that don't cost anything. And so maybe y'all have some suggestions for those. And Kelly, you might want to speak into this too.
I don't know. I think somebody else is going to have to talk about the free thing, because I don't know how to do that. I would like to know how to do a free thing. but I do think that there are ways that you can help with the cost of the tickets for your attendees. And that, you know, that's asking women to do like hey, like if you have a friend, you know, doing like a BOGO deal for people to buy tickets to then have a ticket to give to a friend that may not pay for the ticket or don't have the funds to pay for the ticket. We do some special pricing for college students for some of our events, where we do like a BOGO for buy one, get one half off. So then, you know, college students can afford it a little bit better. We also do group pricing. So like everybody that for all of our events, you get $15 off if you have 5 or more people that are coming to the event. So just different ways like that you can cut the cost down for more attendees, or even saying like, hey, we're gonna raise funds to have a pool of scholarship money for tickets for people that can't afford it. Because there are women in our churches that are more financially able to provide tickets for other people. So those are my ideas on helping with the cost. And as far as the free thing, Michelle, I'd love to hear more about that.
Well,
I do.
I'll jump in.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Kelly.
it's okay. No, I'll jump in too. I will make a point that sometimes if you offer something for free, people don't feel invested in coming. And so even if it's a small amount, like maybe you feel like you have budget or you have things and you just want to offer it for free, I just want to encourage you, if there's even a $5 or $10 ticket to something, women are much more apt to show up. If you do it for free, they may not register, number one, and then they may back out on you at the last minute, and then you're stuck with a lot of things. So I think there's value in charging something, even if it's just a nominal cost. And you can't offer those scholarships like Darilynn mentioned. I think those are really, really important. And pray that the Lord will bring the money that you need, because events are expensive, depending on what you want to do with it. But even if it's just decorations and you want to get people to donate things, or to say, hey, everybody, help us out. We're looking for this. This is what we need. And people can kind of chip in and do some things on their own. I've seen women do that quite a bit. And people bringing their own, making the food, or, having food that they prepare, not catering it in, or at least doing some of that. That will help with some cost as well. But do also plan about budget. Like if you do need a sound person even, whether that's a gift card, or you're going to need to make sure that your church staff is taken care of. You may have custodial costs. You may have setup costs. I mean, there's a lot of things to think about. So ask a lot of questions when you're doing an event to find out all the costs that you can, because it does add up. Sure. Mickey, go ahead, jump in there.
Sure. I was just going to say, I know we've talked a lot about our simulcast events, but I think really our heart in that is because we know how hard it is to put on an event and how expensive it is, but we know that this is a solution that can be for some churches, even for this. If the simulcast, we've heard from many churches who are like, hey, this is, we've got that $600 price point. We're charging a very minimal, fee, that we've done it. And then sometimes people will have fundraisers at the church. They'll do bake-offs. They'll have their, teenagers sell something, they'll do something to help recoup that cost in addition. Also, there are times where local groups, local businesses may even help you with it. Maybe they'll provide, you can tell them about your event and what you're doing. They may even be willing to help with lunch costs, or at a lower cost, or something for breakfast. So I think some of that is being bold and to even ask. You could even have a business owner within your congregation who's like, oh, wow, I would love that. And also would love the exposure for all of the women at your event to have, their restaurant for lunch, whatever that looks like. So I think some of that is just really trying to think outside of the box, and how, how you can help cover those costs of the event. But that's what I do enjoy about the simulcast, because women are able to, you're able to pay this upfront fee, and exactly what you're paying around that, and then you're able to kind of work around that as well. Helping to maybe get some donations and things. And then also, it's also okay to set the expectation for women to say, hey, we're going to have this event, but it's bring your own lunch, or we're going to invite a local food truck to come outside of the building, and women can purchase a meal if they want, or they can bring some. That's okay too. Really at the end of the day, what we hear over and over from women is that they want community, and they want to be together. And so that doesn't mean that they have to have the fanciest or the best lunch. They're okay to miss out on Chick-fil-A or bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if that means that they can connect and be with other women in their church. Also, potluck. Everybody loves to have yummy food from each other. And so, that's another option to try to help to provide things, but it not be as expensive.
Ooh,
I know
Yeah,
we're
there
about
was
to,
one lady.
so good. Can I ask one more question?
yeah, we'll need to hurry.
Okay, this is super fast then. This was, how are event locations chosen for Lifeway? Can one of you just speak into that super quick?
I can speak to it a little bit. I mean, that's a very long answer to that question, but a lot goes into how we find locations. It depends on, it depends on the dates that are available. It depends on where we have been in the past. Most recently, we tend to not go back to the same exact place with the same exact event, obviously, for at least a 3-year period of time. But it depends on the weather during that time of year that the available dates are available or are there. Depends on the capacity of the venues that we're looking at, depends on the type of church that we're looking at. It depends on a lot of things. So we have people that write us in. If we get a lot of requests for a certain city, we're going to obviously pay more attention to that city than we are a city that we haven't heard from. So sometimes they come to us, and sometimes we seek out them because of where our customer base is the most. We have, heat maps of where all of our, customers are located and just all kinds of things. So, but yeah, if you're ever wanting us to come to an event, definitely let us know, or come to a city, let us know. And, we listen to those things.
I think everyone on this webinar should email our team and let them know that we want to come to Hawaii next year, and that would know. Darilynn would love that. She's got family in Hawaii. That's where her family. So that would be so fun. No, it's very expensive to do that. And we have to look at the cost of that as well. Like most people think that we have all the money in the world, but we are our budgets too. I want to say one last thing as we finish up, and that is when you do have an event, no matter what kind of event you have, tell the story. Tell the story of what happens. Let your pastor know. Let your church leaders know what God has done in the midst of an event. Because when you do that and they see that women are engaged with the Lord and they see their lives change because they've encountered this incredible experience, when your church leaders hear that, they're going to be much more willing to give you more money and more budget, and they're going to encourage you to do more events. So I just want to tell you, as we end up, tell the story of events and how that's impacted the lives of the women. Darilynn, Mickey, thank you so much. And I know it's 12:01, so we are right at our time. Thanks so much for joining us. And next month, we do have another webinar coming up on how to minister to single women in your area. So I think this is going to be a really popular one. And you can find all that information also on the Lifeway Women blog. And we would love to have you join us for that one. Again, this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel here in a couple of weeks. Give us a couple of weeks for our team to get that done. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.